So a content warning for everybody before we begin. This episode contains discussions of trauma, abuse, and PTSD.
We are also not therapists or mental health professionals of any kind.
We're just two queers who have done a lot of therapy.
Fuck yeah, we have.
Fuck yeah, we have. Hey folks, and welcome to Hey Adora, your queer She-Ra podcast. I'm Force Captain Maps, they, them.
And I am Princess Jenny, she, her.
And today we are discussing In the Shadows of Mystacor, or magic. In the Shadows of Mystacor is Season 1, Episode 7. It is written by Rich Burns, storyboard by Mark Camelbeck, Mandy Clotworthy, Angela Kim, and Farron Pearl, and directed by Leanne Hughes. Hi, Jenny.
Hi, Math.
Oh my goodness.
Welcome back to my screen. I'm so happy to see your gay face.
I am happy to see your gay face in your incredibly gay room with all of your Buffy and She-Ra stuff around you, which makes me really gay and happy. Hooray! Thank you, everybody. I missed all of you. I was off in Mystacor, relaxationing, or at least trying to.
What was your favorite part? Was it the Cloud Beach or the Steam Grotto?
My favorite part was learning how to relax, which, just like Adora, I had a really hard time figuring out.
Oh yeah, I bet.
But yeah, it's nice to be back. It's nice to see everybody. It's nice to hear your voices, and it's nice to talk about my favorite show. So thanks for having me back, and I look forward to having more in-depth discussions about incredibly homosexual cartoons.
Yay!
Yay! So Jenny, you want to start us off?
Oh boy. So this is the episode along Adora's journey where she fully realizes, like consciously, and acknowledges the fact that she has been abused, that Shadow Weaver has been emotionally and mentally abusive to her entire life, and that she does not have to take it anymore. You know, there's other stuff going on, but that was the big takeaway for me.
Yeah.
And so
pretty heavy.
It's pretty heavy, even though when you compare it to the later, heavier episodes, it may not seem that way, but this is the first episode where Adora has to begin to reckon with the fact that she can't just run away from her trauma. Mm-hmm. Wherever you go, your trauma goes with you.
Exactly. It shadows you.
Indeed it does. That was very good. That was very good. So before we get into the episode, do we want to take a few minutes at the top to discuss the overall big picture view of how specifically Adora has been abused by Shadow Weaver and how it has impacted her worldview and her sense of self?
Yeah, I think so. I think maybe we can define a couple of our terms, so when we get into the weeds here, we can, just kind of really dig in.
So when we have talked about the two of them and their parallel but different pointed abuse.
Two of who?
Oh, of Catra and Adora. Sorry. Okay. They're side-by-side parallel journeys of abuse. It's really easy, and I have been guilty of this very much, to always say like, oh yes, they were both abused and they both had a lot of rough shit, but Catra's, was worse in the end because, she was physically abused, she was demeaned every day, she was told she was garbage. They were both abused, but Catra was really abused worse. I definitely have said that. But when I did some real basic internet research for this episode, and again, I am not a therapist. This is, scientific data-driven research that I am talking about. Every major article, scientific and, medical article that I came across said that children who have witnessed domestic violence have just as many bad outcomes long-term and have just as many incidents as PTSD and, every other long-term bad outcome as children who have been physically abused themselves. Both of those groups of children have just as much incidence as PTSD as soldiers returning from war, which I really hate that that's the gold standard for how traumatized a person can be.
Well, I mean, it was first, physical and psychological trauma was...
I know, it was first defined.
Was first understood and first defined as shell shock from soldiers in World War I.
Yes, you are right. That is exactly right. It was codified and brought into the general consciousness by soldiers' experience. And thank you for pointing that out. But in terms of the public ethos and current medical thinking and awareness is that really the benchmark for how traumatized a person can possibly be?
Right, exactly.
But so, Adora's abuse was just as bad as Catra's.
Yeah.
And it's hard for a lot of people to accept that, but medically and scientifically it's true.
Yes, agreed. And especially the type of abuse that we witness from them, because while, Adora is kind of put up on the pedestal as like, you're the good one and Catra's the bad one, it was also, if you misbehave, Catra's going to get it.
Exactly.
It was also very direct. It wasn't just like, we're going to beat the crap out of Catra and, kiss Adora's ass.
Yeah, no, she was set up for a lifelong guilt complex from the age of 6, because anything bad that happened to anyone else was her fault. Either her friends were punished when she misbehaved, or they were punished when they misbehaved, but it was still her fault because she was supposed to be in charge of everybody, again, from way too young of an age, and she was supposed to have been keeping a better eye on them, should have shown them better, should have made sure that they were not getting up to mischief. You must keep a better eye on her.
Yep.
So either way, it's her fault.
Yep. Ugh. This episode's gonna fuck me up, guys.
Yeah, it already fucked us up.
I'm already like, man. I am going to need to go back to Mystacor after this.
Yeah, this was hard. This was hard. So that was the beginning of what we've seen all through the series of Adora feeling very little sense of self apart from saving other people. Mm-hmm. It was begun by Shadow Weaver, installing this most primal guilt in her for feeling that if anything bad happens, it's her fault. It's on her. It's her responsibility.
And therefore, it is her responsibility to also fix everything.
Yes, exactly.
Poor sweet baby Adora.
I know, both of them.
I know, but in this case, poor sweet baby Adora.
Poor sweet baby Adora. Yeah, and so the way Shadow Weaver manipulated her into thinking everything was her fault, even though she was at the same time being treated like the golden child and put on a pedestal and not being the one to actually get hit and electrocuted, but made to watch. Mm-hmm. That dovetails really nicely into one of the main terms I wanted to find before we even start, which is one of the primary forms of abuse that Adora suffered from her early life, which is gaslighting.
What's gaslighting, Jenny?
Well, this is, again, a definition that I lifted from a medical source. We can put sources in the notes. Gaslighting is a type of sustained psychological abuse where a person or a group makes someone question their sanity, judgment, or memories. People experiencing gaslighting often feel confused, anxious, and unable to trust themselves. So I think we've all had relationships that have included, hopefully not everyone. I'll only speak for myself. We all know what gaslighting is intuitively from our lives.
Yeah, a lot of people interact with folks that have and continue to gaslight them.
Yeah.
Making somebody doubt themselves so they are completely dependent on you.
Right.
Is also typical of a parent that shows narcissistic tendencies.
Yes.
A lot of the stuff that we're going to be dealing with, a lot of the conversation around Shadow Weaver as a parent figure is coming from this place of being a narcissistic parent who is, possessive, sees the child as an extension of their own gratification and inflated sense of self. There are no personal boundaries in terms of, what their accomplishments are and their child's accomplishments. And the child is essentially a tool for them to achieve their own greatness.
Exactly.
So we definitely see that with their relationship.
Oh, I have another Buffy parallel.
Oh, okay.
Amy, who is a side character on Buffy, who was a witch before Willow was a witch, early in the first season. Her mom turned out to be the one manipulating her against her will using magic.
Do you mean magic?
Why, yes, I do, Meth. I do. Her mom forced her to become the pretty cheerleader, popular girl, live that life that she had lived, because that was all she wanted for herself, was just to continue living that life. Mm-hmm. And if she couldn't anymore, her daughter was going to.
Right, exactly.
It had nothing to do with her daughter at all as a person.
Yep, and this is something we're going to keep kind of focusing on, because Shadow Weaver is obsessed. There is an obsession with Adora, of bringing Adora back, of having more power over Adora, because Shadow Weaver knows that Adora is powerful.
Shadow Weaver sees Adora as nothing other than an extension of herself.
Yeah, and also, as a tool to use to gain more power.
Yes.
She has an idea of what endgame may be with Adora.
Yes.
Whether it's with, leading the Horde, or whether it's using her for whatever magical purposes, or, at the end of the show, having her sacrifice and open up the magic for everyone, which was identified in the Light Spinner episode as something that she wanted, albeit in a very different way.
Yes, all true.
She has always used Adora to gain power.
Just like she used Micah a generation earlier.
Yes, she uses children. She is a manipulator of children. And that is why she is a villain. Not an antagonist, but a villain.
Yes.
I would say she's probably the main villain in terms of the psychological impact of our characters, of our two protagonists.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
And the fact that the writers chose to have a narcissistic, manipulative parent as their villain, they're definitely working something out.
Yeah, and absolutely.
It's so common.
And it's so much more relatable than, for example, Horde Prime.
Exactly. Like, big scary cult leader. Sure,
right.
Some kids grow up in big scary cults, but, having the narcissistic parent, the helicopter parent, the one that says, well, no, you have to do this. You're so much better than your brother. Seeing
how it starts out from such a power imbalance from such an early age, and the way, how deeply rooted it is, seeing the way it starts, seeing how it starts, and how that kind of power takes root. It's very important to see it. Also, I feel like we're going to get a lot of messages if we don't also just mention the origin of the term gaslight is from a 1944 American movie, but it was also a 1938 British play first and a 1940 British movie. But, everyone thinks of the American movie. It's a movie called Gaslight, and it's about a husband that manipulates his wife into thinking she's going insane by slowly dimming their gas-fueled lights over time and then telling her she's hallucinating, and other things like, he'd move a book or move a piece of furniture and then tell her it had always been there. That's the origin of the term gaslight.
I hate that.
You do? I mean, why? Also, can I tell you the name of the source for the definitions that I have directly quoted now? Because you're going to freak out when you hear it.
Okay.
So the woman who I was quoting is Robin Stern, PhD, licensed psychoanalyst and co-founder and associate director of the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence.
Oh.
Shouldn't, everyone go there? I feel like they must service people with emotional intelligence, and they don't let you go until you have some.
I feel like I need to go to an emotional intelligence garage and be serviced a lot of the times. So
we all do, my friend.
You want to talk about this episode now?
Yes.
Sick.
Yeah, I do.
So, Jenny, you want to start us off? Tell us where we're at?
Sure. We are in a forest at night with the best friend squad who are all sleeping. But Adora's sleep looks pretty restless. She's not sleeping soundly. And she hears a whisper of Shadow Weaver's voice calling her name. It might be there, it might not. If it is there, it's kind of far away. It's just creepy AF. Not sure if it was real or not. She kind of gets up and walks sleepily into the edge of the woods in a semi-conscious haze. That's all that happens. So we don't know if that was real or if she was semi-conscious dreaming.
Right. What is it? Hypnagogic is the state.
That's an awesome 50-cent word.
It is. I love 50-cent words. So, hypnagogic is the state in between sleep and awake. So it's when you're trying to fall asleep or when you're trying to wake up, and it's that weird place where you can still remember your dreams or you're still hearing things, but your mind is wandering into the crepuscular landscape that is the dream.
Crepuscular.
Well, I'm looking outside. It's really pretty. It is dusk, and there are rabbits chasing each other, and
Aww.
Yeah, it's wicked fucking cute. But yes, hypnagogic. So fun things about hypnagogic states is that this is a state where you are prone to audio hallucinations. This is also, and it might be, the same thing. It might be like hold two truths, right? You are prone to audio hallucinations, but it is also a type of psychological state where you are more susceptible to ghosty buddies. So, sometimes the more paranormal and the weirdest shit happens when you are hypnagogic.
When you are most receptive to it.
When you are most receptive to it. So, that's fun.
Well, in any case, she stays like that all night, as far as we can tell. Because when the others wake up in the morning, she's still like that. But we can't skip over Bo and Glimmer's wake up because it is adorable.
It's so cute. I did want to bring one thing up before we go to their wake up, which is, so the transcripts that I'm looking at right now, it says, at night, 2 moons hang over the sky of Etheria. So we already know Etheria does not have suns. It is a lunar planet with magic.
And multiple moons.
But the different moon rises and falls are the things that show what day or night is. So I guess 2 moons is nighttime and like 3 or 4 moons is daytime.
I mean, honestly, I wasn't keeping track of that stuff because it seemed a little random, and I decided I wasn't going to take any action based on what I figured out anyway. I wasn't going to really form an opinion. I was like, it's a bunch of moons. Sometimes it's day, sometimes it's night. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Because you can't really get daylight from moons without something to reflect off the moons anyway.
Well, Jenny, that's because it's magic.
Oh, I know.
All right, so we got Bo and Glimmer here. I love their wake up.
Me too.
They wake up like a couple.
I mean, they do, but I also want to hold space for them to just be waking up like 2 people who care about each other a lot and don't necessarily have to be in a sexual relationship.
Oh, absolutely. They sleep next to each other a lot. They have an intimate relationship, but like...
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I spent plenty of time, certainly, as a child and a teenager, which they are teenagers, having sleepovers with people who I felt, were an intimate part of my life, but it doesn't always have to be sexual.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Or romantic.
Yes, exactly. Although we know they do end up as a couple.
Yeah, but I mean, like in a personal experience type of thing, it's definitely like, ugh, you're the snorer. Whatever.
Yes.
And of course, Bo just bounces out of bed in the morning. I just love morning Glimmer. Today is canceled. Go back to bed.
Bo just sits and stares at her with a huge smile until she feels his eyes on her. And that's when she says, today's canceled, go back to bed. Relatable content. Also, can we just discuss for a second how good of a job the artist did at conveying Glimmer's bedhead?
I have that in my notes. Glimmer's bedhead is sick. I want that haircut. It's a good haircut.
How do you have cartoon hair that's so perfectly astray? She only had like one little strand that was actually a strand, like sticking out in the middle.
Good job,
it's perfect.
Artists. Y'all crushed it.
Yes. And they managed to have their little early morning bicker sesh that swoops perfectly into a discussion of, wait, where's Adora? And so off in the distance, we see that she's just standing there staring into the woods. And then they teleport there because Glimmer is magic lazy.
Come on, I would do it. Glimmer, you are a travel inspiration for me.
Whatever, it's not important. They get over there. And Adora is still, like, kind of dissociated, pretty out of it, even though she's talking. Like, her eyes are open. She's not asleep.
Do we want to talk about hypervigilance?
I literally have that in all caps as my next comment.
All right.
Hypervigilance is, in children, certainly, and I'm sure it can continue well into adulthood in different forms, when you become hyper aware of the possibility of danger at any time, and so you can't relax. And you certainly can't go to sleep. Not that I'm speaking from experience on this one, but I am.
Yeah.
I spent many childhood nights hypervigilantly awake throughout the entire night. And actually, my first therapist was a childhood sleep specialist.
Really?
Yeah. And so I adopted a lot of really, really helpful falling asleep techniques from a pretty young age.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, it is. And they have served me well throughout my life, let me tell you.
Yeah, well, that's great. And yeah, so hypervigilance, I do have a definition here. It says the nervous system is not correctly filtering sensory information. So you're in like an enhanced state of sensory sensitivity, and you're taking in way more sensory information than you probably should be for your brain to be okay. It can be brought upon by people who have experienced traumatic events or PTSD, because your body is literally always on call to defend itself.
Yes, that's very well put.
Adora is very literally embodying this right now. So it's not alluded to. This hypervigilance is literal. She wakes up, is patrolling the camp, is vigilant, is reacting to any sight or sound that she hears, and is essentially ready to defend at a moment's notice.
Yes. And even though it's now been all night and she hasn't heard another sound, she's not able to relax and say, well, I guess it was nothing.
Exactly. She has major dysregulation in her stress levels because she was literally trained to never not be vigilant, both through trauma and through the training of being a soldier, which we learn later.
Yes. This is quite a combo.
Meanwhile, Glimmer just doesn't get it. Glimmer has her own stuff, but does not understand this type of stuff. It's like, what did you hear? Oh, was it a bunny or a butterfly?
Yeah, Glimmer has no idea.
But she looks at Adora and she sees that her friend is a fucking mess and is like, oh,
yes.
Are you okay? Did you get any sleep? And Adora, once again, goes into the being literal of hypervigilant. Somebody had to stand guard. She literally had to be vigilant.
Yep. Even though they don't usually, as far as we know, have a rotating guard through the night.
Yeah.
When they're out sleeping in the woods.
Yeah. The fact that we have those two, like, sleeping and then being like, did you get sleep? It's pretty easy to deduce that.
Yeah. And then, Bo rolled over to his other side where he thought Adora was. And he's like, hey, Adora, do you think I snore? Because Glimmer just said I snore.
Right.
Like, it's clearly implied that they usually all are asleep at the same time.
Yep.
But the very next thing that happens after, Adora is in her state, and then Glimmer finally notices that she's not responding to the teasing and something's off, and she says, hey, are you okay? Glimmer says, I know you've been on edge since what happened in Drill.
Yep.
She's acknowledging that she knows that Adora has just been through something.
Yep.
But now, that's why she just needs to relax now.
Right.
Because then it'll all be better. They're going to go to Mystacor, where all the wonderful, relaxing things are.
Yep.
And vacation is going to make it all better.
Yeah.
So the PSA here is, vacation will not cure your PTSD.
But Glimmer doesn't know that it's PTSD. Because for Glimmer, it is stressful. And she's like, yo, I am stressed. Let's go get back massages and listen to Enya
exactly. And have a spa weekend.
Yeah, they're going to have a spa weekend in Sedona.
We'll have the steam room.
Yeah.
We'll have a hot tub soak. Yeah, no, Glimmer can't know what she doesn't know.
Yeah, exactly. And she will. But right now she is ignorant to this, which is not a bad thing. It just means that she doesn't know it. So
she doesn't know it yet.
So we're like, what the fuck is a Mystacor? And, Glimmer gives some exposition. It's a secret floating kingdom of sorcerers. It's tranquil gardens and beautiful beaches and healing springs. It's Sedona, and her aunt runs it.
It's where they keep all the magical sorcerer things and the cloud spas.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a floating island.
It's a floating island.
A magically enchanted floating island.
What is enchanting the island, Jenny?
Well, it's the result of a protection spell that comes from their monthly moon ceremony, which is immediately one of my gayest moment nominations.
That's a really good gayest moment.
We all know that a monthly moon ceremony is unbelievably gay.
Oh, it's unbelievably gay. Oh, yeah. I mean...
What were you fishing for, though?
I was fishing for you to say magic.
Oh. Also, I don't want to skip over the fact that Bo does let us know at the very beginning of this part where where Glimmer's telling Adora about Mystacor, that Bo says, yay, I can't wait until we go to Mystacor. And, it's another reminder of Bo and Glimmer's shared history and the fact that they are a very clearly chosen family. All of Glimmer's extended family knows Bo.
Yeah. And also, we learn, we get a little bit of exposition here that, Mystacor is protected by an invisibility spell. There's a protection spell. It's the safest peaceful place in all of Etheria. So, of course, when anybody says that in the beginning of any sort of narrative form, you know that they're setting it up to not be true. So
yes, it's not going to be as safe as everyone thinks it is. No, it's like the coma that she was never going to wake up from.
Exactly. Or, what could possibly go wrong? What could possibly go wrong here?
And also, it's run by her aunt, Sandra Oh.
We're going to get to that.
Sandra fucking Oh.
Oh, we're going to get to Sandra Oh.
Auntie Casta.
Ugh.
Like, how did they achieve that? It's hard to even know.
So good. So Adora, of course, is like, I've never relaxed in my life, right? And everyone's like, ha, ha, ha. And I go, oh, no. And then my heart hurts a lot.
I know. It's like Glimmer already forgot that she didn't know what a party was when they first met her.
Oh, party. I don't know what that is.
Yeah. Remember the cake and the horse?
The horse. Oh, gay horse.
And there was even something to hit.
There was.
Unfortunately, that's not going to be the case here.
There isn't. And, maybe they should have given her something to hit to relax anyway.
TBD.
So we literally see, sweet baby Adora says, I can't relax. And Bo's like, well, we're going to relax now. I mean, not that obviously. But then a shadowy figure appears behind a bush and follows them. Adora cannot relax because she is literally shadowed by her past.
Indeed. She is literally being pursued by it.
Yep. Your shadow follows you and you can't walk away from your shadow.
Exactly.
So we have the theme song.
Credits. Yeah.
We're going to win in the end. And they do.
Let's get a little ahead of ourselves. How about first we go to the Black Garnet Chamber?
I think we should go to the Black Garnet Chamber.
Where Shadow Weaver is having her private evil time with the Black Garnet.
She is having her evil time. She's fondling some rocks, Catra shows up behind her.
Enter Catra.
Ugh, being such a punk. I love it. She's like, yeah, whatever. Okay.
Yep.
This is my first nomination for gayest moment because Catra
oh my God, mine too.
Just such a gay punk in this. She's just like, ugh, I so don't care. It's just
Ending
so gay.
Ending with the lean.
Yes, the butch lean.
Yep.
Yes, Catra does the butch lean, which is a phenomenon. And we were going to find pictures of the butch lean and put them in the show notes.
Absolutely. Maybe we'll turn it into some tweets and some little videos.
Some of the socials. We'll put them on the socials.
Yes, so you will see with your own eyes Catra compared to other leaning gays for your viewing pleasure. But we have to move past Catra in this moment.
So we have Catra leaning, pulling in, you wanted to see me, and Shadow Weaver is, yes, Force Captain. Actually refers to her by her title. Interesting.
For once.
But of course it's in this super bitchy, how kind of you to join me.
Yeah, she's super creepy from moment one.
Yeah, super sarcastic, very much like, obviously don't respect you. And of course Catra is fucking punk about it. Ooh, you're spookier than usual.
Yep. But Shadow Weaver shows Catra all the footage that the Shadow Spies brought back to her spooky scrying bowl.
Yes.
It's Adora and her new friends on their way to Mystacor. Those are Catra's two favorite words, right?
Right.
Her new friends. That's always a pleasure for Catra.
Yep. And we actually talk about the spooky scrying bowl a lot here, but since we're in the magical context, I want to tell people what scrying is.
Yes, that's a great idea.
So, scrying is the practice of looking into a suitable medium to detect significant messages or visions. So, for example, there's something called fire scrying where you just kind of stare at a fire and you zone out. And it's much more, it's much different than that, but it's a form to get into a meditative state. Crystal balls are scrying. Mirrors are scrying. And in this case, we have the spooky cauldron. She is literally standing over a cauldron in her flowing vestments, waving her arms and chanting a spell. She is being your stereotypical witch here, which when we go through the series, we hear that all spellcasters in Etheria are understood to be sorcerers. There's no concept of the witch.
Yeah, the word witch is never used.
It's never used. But
in
here,
this series.
This in particular, this very specific part, even though we see the spooky scrying bowl all the time, this very specific part is a witch casting spells, chanting over her cauldron.
You're right. But so part of that is that Shadow Weaver shows Catra what's going on. Catra immediately thinks this is going to end with and now that we know where she is, you're going to go get her. She's kind of resigned to it. She's like, all right, when do I leave? But then Shadow Weaver tells her, oh no, bitch, you're just here to watch the door. I'm going to take care of it this time. I'm going to take care of it myself. And so we have Catra have a little bit of a reaction like she's not sure how she feels about this. So Shadow Weaver dismisses her and tells her to go. And she hesitates.
Yeah, and then
Shadow Weaver really gets right up in her personal space and screams at her.
Yeah. And so we're seeing the parallel abuse here. And the look that Catra has, she's triggered. She's the notes that I have are she scurries off.
Anytime we see her breathing hard and having sweat on her face, one bead of sweat, she's triggered.
Yeah, she's triggered. And then now is when we have double bubble toil and trouble.
Shadow Spy, follow on to Mystacor.
Yeah, boom, magic. Or magic.
I don't think that one should get the bubbly magic sounds because that was dark magic.
Magic.
Yeah. That was a great voice, Meth.
And yeah, so Shadow Weaver does the spell thing, because that's what it is. She's casting a spell. And slams the door, the shadow spies go and do their thing, and then we go back to the three of them standing upon a precipice, overlooking a 1,000-foot drop.
They're hiking to Mystacor. I don't think they get to the precipice immediately.
Right.
And then they get to this giant fucking cliff, right? And without any explanation from Boar Glimmer, they just say, we're here! And they jump off a cliff.
Yep. And Adora's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. And she has no idea that there is a little floating magic island coming up out of the clouds. And then she has like a calculated number of seconds to process that completely and then run and jump onto it before it floats away.
Right.
So, a lot of pressure for a few seconds to process all that information.
Right.
Yeah. P.S. Why does anyone ever doubt Adora's intuition?
It's
it's the unanswerable question, because then there would be no hijinks.
Right. It's the wacky It's like, that's the thing that happens in every show, right? Like the hero's like, I don't know, guys. Right. And then they're all like, nah, it's fine. And of course, that's how drama happens.
Yes.
That is literally part of the dramatic form.
I know. I mean, it's a throwaway question.
Yeah. Why doesn't anyone listen to Adora? It would be like 3 episodes, right?
Yeah.
Or it would be like, it's why didn't Catra just go with Adora in the beginning? Well, because the show would be 20 minutes long.
Congratulations. But they make it.
They make it.
Mystacor!
Yay!
Also, I just want to review the first few sentences of dialogue that they say to each other when they arrive. First, Bo hops off, and they're just both so carefree and excited immediately. He hops off and he says, we rode a flying mountain through clouds. It never gets old.
Yep.
So, first of all, that just reestablishes the fact that he has history here. He's totally at ease here. He's expressing that even on Etheria, this is a fucking novelty experience, and this is a great vacation. And that the two of them are fully in vacation mode and they're not thinking about, like, how are we going to get Adora to relax? They're just fully in relaxation mode.
Yeah. Now we get to, meet
meet Aunt Casta.
Sandra Oh!
Oh my God!
Let's talk about
How
Sandra
did they get her?
I don't know. I mean, they have, amazing cast on this show.
I know. But this is, relatively speaking, a fairly minor speaking part.
Yeah.
And they still got somebody so dope.
Sandra Oh is dope. Sandra Oh is a Korean-Canadian actress that has been active since the 90s. She is known for her work on Grey's Anatomy with her ex-husband Alexander Payne, who was a phenomenal satire director. Throughout the 90s
I
and
did
the
not
2000s.
know that.
Yeah, they were married for a while because she was
dude.
in that movie, the wine movie.
Oh, yeah. Sideways?
Sideways.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah. And, of course, if you're gay, which you probably are if you're listening to this, you probably know Killing Eve, which I have not yet watched, but it's another sexy enemies, cat and mouse type of show, which I have heard is the gayest and is absolutely lovely. Sandra
and
Oh
apparently a lot of people like to compare it to She-Ra, to Cachadora specifically.
Yeah.
It's like, if you like Cachadora, come on over to Killing Eve.
Yeah, that's what I've heard, if you're an adult.
Yeah, I liked it, but in the end, it was a little too dark for me to continue long term.
Yeah, I will probably sit down and binge it. It is on my list. Anyway, Sandra Oh is fucking iconic, and I would just like to bring up that there is a phenomenal picture that I found on the internet of Sandra Oh in the 90s with this super awesome wavy hair, sitting there with this smirk, wearing a Pepsi shirt. So it's the old school 90s Pepsi logo, but instead of it saying Pepsi, it says pussy.
What?
And it's
going into my dog, only dogs can hear this shrill level now.
Yo,
you saw what?
It is the hottest shit ever.
Oh my God. Well, we clearly have to share this with the people. Everyone's gonna be excited to see that.
Yeah. If you want to see it, just Google Sandra Oh pussy shirt. It's amazing.
And we're gonna share it, obviously.
Anyway, we should probably stop talking about...
We should move past Sandra Oh and the pussy shirt, as hard as it might be.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, Aunt Casta is kind of passive-aggressive.
Have you changed your hair? I'm sure your mother's not feeding you. I notice you're not wearing the sweater I made you, but you tell me if you didn't like it, right?
So Aunt Casta is a little passive-aggressive, and I did want to kind of draw a little parallel here between a theme in the show. A theme in this particular episode is the concept of the shadow and the mirror. So we are literally working with mirrors here as a
that's like heavy-handed in this episode.
Deeply heavy-handed as shadow and mirror. And in this, we see the visual comparison of both Shadow Weaver and Castaspella literally looking in mirrors, like cauldrony mirrors, scrying-y things, in order to communicate with the magic that they need to communicate with, to use that technology.
Mm-hmm.
Also, in doing that visually, we have them drawn as parallels of female familial figures. Not so much authority figures in this case, but familial figures. Aunt Casta, and we see later, when Glimmer says, "Oh, mom stuff," like a maternal figure. Both of them are kind of controlling. Now, we defined gaslighting earlier.
Yes, we did.
And it's nasty business. Nasty business.
And it's a huge part of this episode, and it's a huge part of Adora's psyche, and it's a very deep and destructive force.
Yes, and it is, but it comes from a place of control. Specifically, it comes from a place of controlling another person's narrative. Passive aggression is also a place where you are controlling somebody else's narrative because you are kind of frying their circuits with it, right? Your attitude is betraying what you are saying. So in doing so, you are actually not really communicating with them properly. You're kind of low-key gaslighting them and trying to decipher what the feelings that you're saying are, right? It's a very low level. It's played here, and it really is in many, many aspects.
Yeah.
More of an annoyance than an actual,
I mean, of course, I have seen people take passive aggressiveness pretty far.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to the everyday stuff, but
right.
It's far less so than gaslighting.
And in this instance, I think we can really only speak
It's a passive way of trying to control another person's narrative.
Exactly.
You're not trying with all your strength.
Exactly.
You're passively kind of trying.
Passively trying to control a narrative versus with gaslighting, you are actively trying to control somebody's narrative, and that's what's happening here. Casta is coming from a place of love and familiarity, and as we see later in the episode, she is coming from a place of love about this, but she does have kind of her own baggage and is shown as a mirror to this. So
also, we find out that Beau is wearing the socks that she got him.
I know, and the way he said it was kind of crap. He's like, "Well, I'm wearing my socks." We're like, "We get it, buddy. You're the good kid. Gotcha."
Well, it also shows again, he has familial ties with Glimmer's family.
True. Yeah.
Her family loves him like he's part of their family.
Yep.
And then Aunt Casta tells us that we've come at the perfect time because there's an eclipse this evening, which I'm sure will go smoothly and nothing interesting will happen, right?
Nothing could possibly go wrong.
I know, right? And how much would you have bet, if we hadn't already seen it, that you could have predicted that Glimmer would not be a gracious guest?
Oh, yeah. No, definitely.
You don't need to have seen it to know that.
Yeah, you knew that was going to happen. I did want to bring up stuff about magic, actually, and how it is used in Mystacor, and kind of keep going back on our magic as technology.
Magic, you say?
Because we see them walking through Mystacor, and we see sorcerers, right? We see them doing their sorcery thing.
And we see plenty more evidence in this episode of your original thesis, which I agree with, that there's no religion on Etheria, and that all of the rituals and practices they have are material-based, as is the magic.
Yep. So we know we have identified particular sets of magic users in Etheria that are able to use the technology of magic to accomplish the goals that they need. So first, this is the new one that we see is the sorcerers. So what we know about sorcerers is that they have an inborn ability to work with magic, but they have to train in order to learn the forms to do so. It's like Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And the magic that the sorcerers use, we have sigil magic. So they are drawing signs. We see Casta doing it too. They're drawing signs with their hands in order to cast a spell. Castaspella.
Ha ha ha. So the signs, those specific signs are called sigils, or sigils is just another word for signs?
sigil magic is magic that uses particular symbols in order to use the energy to harness the energy of the magic itself. So the magic is working with the sigil. It's drawing the sigil. It's working on the sigil.
Cool stuff.
There's a whole bunch of stuff. You can look up sigil magic if you want.
Of course.
So that's what they're doing here. There's also they're also using hand movements, which reminded me of mudra. So mudra is the symbolic or ritual gesture or pose. It's found in Hinduism and Jainism and Buddhism, and it is you use particular movements of your hand and your body in order to move energy through it. So
we've certainly seen Glimmer do that plenty.
We definitely see Glimmer do that plenty. And it also comes into kind of the theatrical understanding of gestural ritual, like gestural magic. So it's very theatrical. It's a theater choice to, you're not going to stand there with your arms crossed and say, poof, you're a dog, unless you're doing it like very intentionally. You're going to need to show with your body that you are making a magic, the same way that you're showing that you're fighting on a stage, the same way you're showing that you're picking up a glass. So you're making of the magic with the big things. So
lovely.
Those are kind of the three components of how sorcerer magic works on Etheria. And of course, then we have the others, where are the princess magic. Princesses get their magic from their connection to the rune stones. And then we have Raz, who is magic. We're learning more about the magical technology of Etheria.
Yay, magic! Yay, queer magic!
Yay, queer magic! Queer magic.
Fuck yeah!
We learned that Castaspella is Micah's sister, Glimmer's late dad's sister. And Adora does not know what an aunt is.
That's right. Adora never knew what an aunt was, which makes perfect sense. It shows again that she has no notion of familial ties or community, which gives us all sad hearts again.
Yeah, except for Shadow Weaver, which we learned.
Yes. But so we have established that Adora would like Adora, even though Glimmer vociferously doesn't want to have to endure it again. She really, again, aside from not wanting to get sucked into what Aunt Casta wants to do, she's not being a gracious host to Adora at all. She's not asking for Adora's input on anything when Aunt Casta says, would you like Adora? Would you like this? She doesn't even look at Adora. So to be fair, maybe Adora would like Adora.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I think so too.
So we get to this big room that's full of ancient ceremonial crystals that will definitely not be smashed by the end of the episode.
Definitely not. I mean, why would they be smashed? That does not make sense.
Because they're beautiful and perfect. So Aunt Casta then explains to Adora how their monthly moon ceremony keeps them protected from the outside world and invites them to come tonight, where everything is sure to go smoothly and without incident.
What could possibly go wrong?
What could indeed? And again, I'm going to point out here, gayest moment, number whatever, monthly moon ceremony.
Monthly moon ceremony is really gay.
Yes. That's reminds me of the original, moon cup. The little menstrual blood collector, that you pop inside.
Yeah, they had moon cups and they had the Luna, and then all of them were called after fucking moons.
Before they got to have lots of different brands and lots of choices, it was like Luna cup or moon cup.
And they were like rubber.
Yep. Anyway, so we're looking at the statues in the Hall of Sorcerers. The first one is King Micah, who Aunt Castaspella tells us is her brother, Glimmer's father. Adora realizes what the word aunt means, but then we continue down the point. We're in the Hall of Sorcerers now. We're looking at all the statues of the former leaders of Mystacor. And as we continue down the hall, Adora spots another statue that she and we immediately clock as Shadow Weaver. Even if we don't fully get it or understand how or why right away, did we not all fully clock that immediately as Shadow Weaver?
I mean, we did. I think Adora clocked it as what the fuck?
Yeah, she understands on a gut level.
Yeah,
she hasn't fully faced up to anything yet at this point. It makes her uncomfortable. Something is ticking, and she's like, oh, she gets a bad feeling.
Can we talk about how we find this?
Well, we were just walking down the Hall of Sorcerers.
No, I mean, not the condition in which the statue is presented to us.
Sure. I thought it was the same as all the others, but yeah, go ahead.
So, Castaspella says that the light spinner is a scar on Mystacor's past. When you see it, it is scorched. Like they tried to...
I didn't see the scorch.
The wall itself is damaged looking.
Because I was wondering the whole time, like, why have they not taken this down? Do they not know about Germany?
It looks like...
It's the classic example.
It is a classic example. No, it looks like, if you go back and look at it, it looks like it was...
Okay.
They tried to scour it away, but it could never go.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
In terms of visual storytelling, surprise, surprise, it is shown, you guessed it, in shadow.
Yep.
Oh, and what was this mysterious this mysterious name of this person who is also wearing a mask?
The mysterious name of this mysterious mask wearer is Light Spinner.
Gee, if only there would be some sort of shadow version of that name.
Indeed, Light Spinner, a scar on Mystacor's past. She sought power and control above all else. And she was cast out, although some say she never really left.
Ooh.
That she's biding her time, waiting to exact her revenge. But those are only children's tales, of course. On with the tour.
So yes, we understand the whole, telling spooky stories is children's tales, but as we learned later, she was a teacher. Her main drive in life was to teach children.
Well, do we think that was really her main drive in life, or that was what she did for a living?
I think she was a jacked up teacher. I think that she was a teacher who really did find joy in teaching because it allowed her, she was a corrupted teacher, so it allowed her to have, power over children and then have them be her will. She did the same thing when she went to the Horde.
Yeah, she was a corrupted teacher. I think
she
that's a necessary qualifier.
Yes, she was a corrupted teacher. So the fact that this is a children's tale, this is a story that children tell, is also, means it is significant. It means something because the children tell stories of the spooky bad teacher, too.
Yes, of course.
So...
Also, she's Voldemort.
Also,
by this comparison.
Is she?
Some say she never really left. She's biding her time.
Yeah.
She lost power, but she's not gone.
Yeah, I can see that. And I have in my notes, oh, how wrong you are, Casta.
Indeed. But while the others move on to the next statue, Adora stays transfixed.
It's almost as if she may have figured something out.
It's almost as if she's preoccupied, and then she sees the shadow of the shadow spy on the opposite wall.
Yep.
And she only has a second to react, before Bo and Glimmer are back.
And she goes into a fighting stance.
Yeah. And they're full of enthusiasm and obliviousness to tell her that it's finally beach time.
Yep. And Glimmer's like, it's worse than we thought. Yeah, it is worse than you thought.
Yeah. But then they finally notice that she is, not okay.
Right.
They start to notice that she's in, a full fighting stance.
Yeah. Yeah. And that continues to escalate throughout the episode as well. Her reactions escalate. So Glimmer says it's worse than we thought. You need warm sand and calming waves stat, and I added and an Ativan.
Yeah. Yeah. so much more effective in combo, those things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So they go off for their Cloud Beach relaxation, but as soon as they turn their backs, the fucking Shadow Spy fully rises up behind them, and only we know. The audience.
Only we know. And then Shadow Weaver is like, all right, motherfuckers, it's time.
So now there's a really great shot in the Black Garnet chamber. It's one of those zoom outs from one frame into another frame into another frame. We see the Shadow Spy's view of the Best Friend Squad in Mystacor, and then it pulls back into Shadow Weaver's view of it framed in the scrying bowl. And then we see Shadow Weaver standing over it, and it's all one continuous zoom out.
Yeah, that is cool.
It's a great shot visually.
Yeah, a beautiful shot. And then we go to the beach.
Yeah, and all she says, as you just said, is, it's time for something more. And then this huge amount of shadows, it's like shadows as flame, rises up around her.
Yes, it's gorgeous.
And that's it. Then we go back to the Hall of Sorcerers for one hot sec.
Yep.
So we see the newer and bigger Shadow Spy.
Yep.
Like Shadow Spy 2.0, it's roughly human-sized and shaped. And it has her little evil gem right in the middle of its forehead.
Yeah, it's like the Terminator. It's like the first movie.
Yeah, we just see it rise up and suss out Mystacor like a smug little fuck. And that's it.
Yep.
Just want you to know it's here.
Yep.
And then we go to the Cloud Beach.
And then we go to the beach, and Adora has no idea what to fucking do at the beach. And Adora, I feel you. I get it. If I wanted to lay down somewhere, I'd take a nap. But she's like, so what do I do?
Who lies on the beach fully clothed?
Well, that was my next thing, is poor sweet baby Adora.
But they're all doing it.
Yeah, well, Bo just straight up, conks out. And I love taking naps outside. Like, I'm definitely a napping outside person.
But you have to be tired and ready for a nap for that to be a good idea.
Well, I mean, like, I could be like, oh, I had a picnic and I ate too much and I'm a very sleepy bear. I am going to take a nap under this tree.
That sounds fantastic.
Doesn't it? Right?
Yes,
but so,
yes.
like, just being like, cool, we're here. Relax now.
Yes. Like, exactly.
What?
But even for people who can come to the beach and lie down on their towel to start out their beach experience, you're not just going to lie there in all of your stiff, all day, every day clothing. Like with your belts and your shoes and your socks and your undergarments and all that shit. Like,
yeah, no.
Even Glimmer should be like, oh, they should have been wearing their steam grotto bathing suit, whatever those were, on the beach too. Just saying. That would have been a better way to start. And also, on a real beach, you can start off by swimming or floating.
Yeah, and that's
you cannot swim on a cloud beach.
That's the good thing. Or like you start off you're laying down, you're on your towel, there's some music happening.
Perfume brought the party, Kale.
Exactly. You break out the party, Kale. Someone has their Bluetooth speaker.
But I'm also saying on the other side of that, there's people who don't want to start on the sand at all. There's people who need to start in the ocean.
Right, exactly.
We as native coastal dwellers have to appreciate that fact. I don't want to start on the sand. I have to go in the ocean first.
Yeah.
Bo is asleep before Glimmer has even finished telling Adora what the beach is.
Yep.
So he's totally out. And Glimmer at least explains a little bit. She says, why don't you give it a try? But they're both fully in their own vacation mode, way more than guiding their friend Adora, who they know is super stressed, if nothing else, into her type of relaxation of choice.
Yeah, and Adora is like, okay, I'm gonna try.
Yes.
Like, is literally just laying there being like, what does relaxing thing do? I make them sound. Relax good.
The most adorable sequence of lifelong soldier tries to lie on a towel and relax. She stares around randomly at clouds, makes funny random noises, which quickly descend into dyspeptic dog sounds.
Oh my god, that's so good. Dyspeptic is another great word.
Yes.
I love that word.
And those little noises she makes are perfect. She starts out sort of optimistic with her little boopity boop noises, and then it turns into, I'm gonna die if you make me lie here for one more second. Please give me permission to sit up, which she somehow thinks she needs permission. Soldier Adora.
Oh.
Yeah.
What I have in all caps is, this is me.
Yeah. Yeah. You need to hit things.
This is me. I need to hit things.
Yeah, well, it doesn't work for everybody. We're gonna have to upgrade this bitch to Steam Grotto. Because Bo
Steam
is up
Grotto.
for whatever.
So this is one of my choices for one of the gayest moments, which is actually, I have this as one of the queerest moments, because two reasons.
Yes.
One, the whatever they are wearing as swimwear is agnostic for gender and body. So
when you say agnostic, you really mean totally genderless.
Yeah. Yes, it's genderless. Etheria does not have the idea of gendered bathing suits, which, holy crap, I want to move there right now. That gendered bathing suits have been a huge, huge, huge issue my entire life and my entire journey through my own gender. And I finally found really awesome tank suits that I look like an old-timey muscle man, and I don't feel like I'm wearing a weird bathing suit that is designed to, exacerbate particular parts of the body that I was born in.
Yes. I can see it, classical 1930s.
Yeah, and it looked good too. It's black. It's got piping on it.
No shit.
Dear listeners, I had a pyramid tattooed in the dead center of my chest. So when I wear this bathing suit, I look like I am the captain of the Illuminati swim team.
That is so awesome. I don't think I have a proper reaction to that. It won't blow out my microphone over here, because that is just so awesome.
Anyway, so I am super about Etheria having swimwear that respects all of the genders. And this leads into, so there is a very common headcanon that was kind of started in the first season. This was pointed to as a thing that people were able to draw from, that Bo is trans.
Yes.
And they, kind of pointed to the Bo is wearing a chest wrap and a couple of other things, but the wrapping of Bo's chest and the fact that throughout the first and maybe even to the second season, Bo's voice drops, and Bo is supposed to be understood to be an older teenager, right? Like Bo is probably around Adora's age, 18, 19. Your voice generally does not crack and drop around that time unless you're starting testosterone and your voice drops. So
yeah.
So there are a couple of things. I love this headcanon. I accept this headcanon because I accept any headcanon that has more trans people everywhere all the time forever. And Noelle accepts it as headcanon for the pure purpose of, once again, as Noelle has said before, if he was going to create a trans character, he's going to cast a trans person to portray this character.
Exactly.
So Bo is trans, headcanon. Perfuma is trans, headcanon. I love them all.
Absolutely. And Noelle, I pulled a quote if we wanted to be able to have a specific quote of Noelle from an interview with Digital Spy from this particular scene. And Noelle says, quote, "It's a fan theory that I'm very, very fond of. I think if anyone, especially trans people, can see themselves in Bo, it's incredible. And I'm very, very happy to be able to bring a masculine character who redefines masculinity in just a very positive, aspirational way. But also, they said they're hesitant to canonize it because if that had been their intention, as you said, they would have cast a trans actor and made intentional choices around it holistically, not just they would have cast a trans actor."
Right. Aww.
And I also really thought that the steam grotto bathing suits, that style was very much a nod to gender equity. Because, again, like if the female characters have to cover their nipples, then so do the male characters. Because they can't show a bunch of topless people in an all-ages cartoon. I like that too, but I'm just as happy to embrace transpo.
Totally. And I think that was the intention of the storyboard artists and the creators. It's something that I've noticed in burlesque too, with the community that, I had been a part of, is that everybody wears pasties.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Why not?
Pasties
the more
are great.
pasties, the merrier.
They're super fun to make too.
So let's move on to the experience of the steam grotto, shall we?
Yes. Let's do it.
So Glimmer, I think, is a little bit more attentive to Adora in the steam grotto than she was on the beach. She's more attentive to the fact that Adora isn't just going to plop down and relax like they are, that she can't do that and that she needs more guidance. So Glimmer tells Adora how the hot pools in the steam grotto are full of magical healing magic. Magical healing minerals, and the sorcerers use them to cleanse themselves of worry and fear before big ceremonies or spells. And so while she's explaining this, she's leading Adora by the hands, with both hands into the pool, telling her to breathe deeply and, focus on your breath, telling her what to focus on, how to ease her into this experience rather than just plopping down and saying, okay, now you relax. And also, I think an honorable mention gayest moment right now is Glimmer's baby angel wings.
Yes, I definitely had that as an honorable mention as well, because they look like baby gay bisexual back tattoos.
They do. And they also look like baby bisexual wings for real.
Yes!
She is the baby bisexual. Her mother is the queen.
Everything about Glimmer.
Her mother is the bisexual angel queen. Glimmer is the bisexual angel baby.
Yeah, and everything about Glimmer is just so fucking bisexual.
Yeah. But then the very next moment is an equal contender because then they wake up piled together in the hot tub.
See, I definitely had that as the gayest moment because it's literally like, it's Glimmer definitely being like, I'm asleep on you.
Yep.
And I do definitely think it's kind of Glimmer has a little baby crush on Adora.
I don't know. I also think that she's the kind of baby queer who wants to be taken under the wing of the older queers in a mentorish way. And in their friendship, I feel like has never had those undertones. But it's open to interpretation. I am not the boss.
I honestly think that you can hold both of those as true.
You can. You absolutely can. Either way, it gay.
It gay. Either way,
it gay. Yes.
It gay. So that is a nomination for an actual nomination, not an honorable for we all know that you all know that we all know that someone knows that kind of us that we all know that gay shit's happening.
All right.
All right.
But then it's so sad because they only get this one moment. I mean, Dora was asleep. She wakes up and gets this one moment of awake and aware relaxation before Shadow Weaver shows up because she can't stand seeing Adora having healthy relationships.
No,
right?
Because she has to dictate every single one of Adora's relationships.
Yes. So that's when we see the room fill with the dark shadows and just the ominous outline of Shadow Weaver appears. And again, we hear her calling out to Adora in that creepy stalkerish voice. She's not screaming at her like she does with Catra.
Right.
She never says, Adora! She's Adora, come back to me. Come back to me. Come back to the fright zone. So all these shadows rise up. Adora reacts to it. She only has enough time to, accidentally dunk Glimmer in the hot water, bolt out and get her sword, and the shadows disappear immediately. But then Bo and Glimmer are alerted to the fact that something's up, and as soon as the mist clears and they see that all the shadows are gone, they're like, you brought your sword in a steam grotto? They don't even know who Shadow Weaver is yet because Adora has never mentioned her.
Yes, exactly. So this is the second escalation of Adora's... Well, it's the second, but it's an escalation of Adora's reactions. So we start with Adora just kind of being twitchy, and then we, see Adora stumbling, and then we see Adora, she's in fighting stance, and now we see Adora reaching for a weapon.
Yes.
So Adora's trauma reactions are getting more and more intense as she continues to be re-triggered.
Yes.
Like compounding trauma responses.
Yes.
So that's fun.
Oh, yeah. It's the best.
Oh, yeah. It's the best.
So then Adora explains to Bo and Glimmer who Shadow Weaver is to her.
Can I read this line from Adora?
Sure.
Because I really
do.
like this line.
Oh, I'm sure. I think I have the same line written down. Please go ahead.
So Adora says, Shadow Weaver raised me in the Horde. She taught me how to read and tie my boots and how to subvert the enemy and be victorious in battle.
I know. That is the most fantastic line.
It's a great line, and it's also so sad.
Oh,
it is
of course.
Fucking devastating. Like, this is one of the reasons why I love the show so much. Because it is able to have, and it's not dark humor either. It is a legitimately funny line. But this is, the underpinnings of it is so...
But it also contains the realness of the experience that is so hard to face dead on. You can't face issues like this dead on in a children's show.
No, and a person can't face the issues like this dead on. Like, if you talk to somebody that,
that's true.
You talk to somebody that has lived a traumatic life, particularly with parents that have been abusive or have traumatized them in particular ways, they'll say stuff that they think is totally fucking normal.
Yep.
And that's what happens to Adora here. She's like, she taught me how to subvert the enemy and be victorious in battle. And Glimmer kind of pumps up and is like, okay, sure, mom stuff.
Yeah, Glimmer doesn't give the reaction of like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
She sort of processes it pretty easily.
And then Adora is like, no, commanding officer stuff, and then it hits Adora.
Yes.
And like you hear the beat, and she exhales and she realizes what it is. Because she's at this point, she's been exposed to families. So she's met an aunt and she's met a mom. So, and she now can kind of see the difference between what an aunt does and what a mom does, and can see that Shadow Weaver was a mom figure.
It's a huge moment for her in her steps through her own processing of her trauma, what has happened to her, who she is, where she's going, where she wants to go. Again, like we said, you can't run away from your trauma. It's your shadow. It's in you. It's with you wherever you go. So she has to face these things. But as you said, like, you can't just face up to all your trauma at once. Your brain and body would completely shut down. But so this is a really important conscious moment for Adora, that she's consciously, like you said, it's consciously clicking into place for her, that Shadow Weaver is her mother figure.
Yeah. And Glimmer is like, okay, but she's not here. And Adora is triggered. She's like, you don't know what she can totally be here. You don't know what she's capable of.
Yeah.
Like, this entire conversation, if put into any context that's not, you can take this out of this context and put it into like a straight drama, and it would fit.
Yeah. I mean, you could put it into a dialogue between any two people, one of whom is running from an abuser, and the other person's trying to comfort them and be like, well, you're safe now. It's fine. They can't possibly be here.
And you're like, you don't know that.
The person who's running from the abuse is like, well, you don't know that. You can't promise that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then we have Bo's line right here. So as we've been kind of going through, there's always like one or two lines within the episode that kind of are like the thesis statement of the episode. And this is the thesis statement of the episode, like the emotional underpinning in the thesis is. Sounds like the Shadow Weaver really did a number on you growing up, but you're okay now. You got away from her.
You got away from her.
Do you want to try something else? And Bo is just being a phenomenal emotional friend. We could get massages. We could find something to hit if that would work better.
Yeah.
And like, that's it. Bo with the thesis statement.
Yeah. That is an awesome way of framing it. And I can't not agree with that. But also in the context of this moment, he is being emotionally supportive, but he's still undercutting any notion that he actually believes what she is saying, that there is something wrong here for real.
Yes.
He's sort of invalidating her because he's brushing off her feelings that something is wrong by chalking it up to her past trauma. And so he's unintentionally on board with the gaslighting now, even though he doesn't know it. So it's like she feels loved, but she doesn't feel listened to.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see. So we're cool. Glimmer and Adora's like, nah, just give me some space.
And they respect her space.
But then Adora hears
But as soon as they leave, the second they leave,
I think she's going nuts. Did you hear her in there? More gaslighting.
That's, more Shadow Weaver.
It's more, yes, it's Shadow Weaver doing it. And Adora's like, I'm not crazy. Like literal, that is like
yes.
Textbook definition gaslighting.
Yes. She walks in the hall and no one's there. She's ready to confront them. And then she's saying, I'm not crazy to no one.
To no one, which, oh God.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So the music lets you know that this does not bode well, just in case you didn't pick up on it yourself. The music will tip you off.
Yeah, that's the great thing about cinema.
Ooh. And then we fade back to the Hall of Sorcerers later that night.
And Adora's staring at the light spinner one, being like, you're just a statue. There's no way Shadow Weaver can be here.
And also, when there's one shot where we're looking from over the statue's shoulder, and so Adora looking up at the statue, she is tiny in comparison to the size of the statue.
Yep.
And that's just great visual metaphor, visual framing for she feels tiny compared to Shadow Weaver, even though she's basically an adult now.
That's why I count on you for all the good visual stuff, Jenny.
Oh, thank you.
So it's just a stupid statue, a shadow spy comes at her, and Adora turns into She-Ra.
Yeah, I mean, and this time the shadow spy physically attacks her and throws her off her feet.
Yep.
Everything she's seen up till now, she could tell herself, did I really see that? Or did I not see it? But this time, there's no way she can think maybe she just imagined it because it physically threw her off her feet.
And here is what I have. So this is a really big escalation of trauma, which is you turn into something else. So I have that here as an observation that Adora is so triggered she disassociates.
And her transformation here is markedly different from the transformations we've seen so far.
Exactly. The way that I've read it is used as Adora as a metaphor. I think it actually, I'm going with metaphor here, for disassociating.
I think that works. I hadn't thought of that, but I totally think that works.
So she disassociates, first thing she hears is Catra.
Yep. Because this time we've never seen her transform in a panicky state before.
Exactly.
She says, for the honor of Grayskull, in like one word.
Yep. She disassociates to protect herself.
Yes. And the first thing she says after she thinks she hears Catra's voice saying, hey, Adora, of course.
Of course.
She says, whatever you're doing, I won't let you get away with it. Which immediately she's admitting she has no idea what's going on, but she's still blindly pushing forward, both because that's her conditioned military response and because she's triggered and she's just reacting. She's not calculating her moves. She's not using her commander training.
Exactly.
She's just blindly reacting now.
Yep, she's in a disassociative state, and you can't really make decisions in a disassociative state, so you react.
Nope.
She's purely reacting. And then we have Catra's voice saying, what do you think? Shadow Weaver controls us both. She always has. And this is where I'm like, so is this Shadow Weaver quote unquote actually saying it, or is this Shadow Weaver's spell saying the things that are happening in Adora's brain about this? Because I think it's that one. Because I think it's that. Because then we kind of go through, because they're all insecurities, right? So we go through.
Yeah, I think it's the latter.
Yeah, so she chases Catra.
Yep.
Catra come back.
It always will be Catra come back.
It will always be Catra come back.
And of course, Catra leads her to the lunarium full of all the delicate crystals.
No, before we get to the delicate crystals, though, so she chases Catra, and then we hear Hordak.
Yes. And so immediately then Hordak's here, and he says, we had such high hopes for you.
Yep.
Force Captain.
Yep.
Disappointing. Does the rebellion truly think you can save them? Nothing can stop the Horde. Least of all, you.
Yep.
So all these are insecurities that she holds very tight to her chest.
And then we have, you will lead them every Etherian, to their complete and utter annihilation.
Yeah. And that is when she literally turns away, closes her eyes, and covers her ears.
Yep.
She is having her guts ripped out and she can't respond.
And swings her sword. She purely reacts. Like, I had to pause this and walk away because it was so gut-wrenching and it hit so close to home. Yeah. And I had to pause it and walk away and lay in the bath and go, pew.
How'd that work out for you?
Didn't work out well. So I came back and I watched it.
So then, you got something to hit and you went to the steam grotto.
I got something to hit. I went to the steam grotto. I woke up with a bisexual snuggling with me. It was great.
Yay.
And so we're there, and she fucks up some shit in the lunarium.
But also, she sees his image in the mirror.
That's true. Oh yeah, more mirror stuff, right? So she sees this image of Hordak in the mirror, and she blasts it.
So she thinks he's really behind her. Yeah. Because she's seeing him in the mirror. So she blasts all these crystals behind her.
So she's king reaction of Reactionville.
Yeah.
And then the real world kind of slaps her in the face, and Castor runs in. And
everything just comes rushing back in. Like, reality comes back in in this, like, single swooping moment. Yeah. That is very tangible.
Yeah, and it's when you're knocked out of a dissociative state. Like, everything just rushes at you at once, and all of a sudden, Casta is... They broke all the shit.
She's like completely speechless with what have you done-ness.
Yeah. But luckily, Adora did not destroy the lenses that protect Mystacor.
Phew. That is lucky. She just destroyed a bunch of other ancient, irreplaceable crystals.
Yeah. That's fine. Who hasn't done that?
And so, of course, Bo and Glimmer do come immediately to her defense. Because Aunt Casta now is like, who you hang out with?
Yeah.
Your friend just destroyed 1,000 years worth of sacred writings.
Yeah.
And Bo and Glimmer immediately say she didn't mean to, she would never. And then we see Aunt Casta storm off, and Glimmer follows her, and Adora continues to try to apologize, and Glimmer says, don't worry, I'll handle it. And Bo says to Adora, and to me this came off as like a little bit more, not aggressive, but a little bit more like, you listen to me now. Bo says, the Horde isn't here, you need to get some sleep.
Right.
But not even in a way like that was aimed at like compassion for her. It's just the tone a little bit to me was more like, you need to get over this now. The Horde isn't here. You need to get some sleep.
I definitely hear that. I think he was definitely taking a firm stance here, but I think it was more of out of concern than of like anger.
I just think it was equal parts. The tone, I mean, this is a tiny thing, and certainly there's no right or wrong answer. This is just like how you take it. When it comes to someone's tone of voice, it's like how you take it. I read it because up until now, everything he said to her has been directed only for her concern and her welfare. And this was a little bit more impatient, like, all right, I keep giving you chances to relax and help yourself. Like, you need to actually do it now. Like, it's having an impact now.
Right.
Like, if I were in Adora's shoes, I sort of felt a little bit of anxiety. Like, okay, I keep getting chances.
Yeah. No, I get you.
And now look how I fucked up. And even my friend, who's always the one who says, it's fine, everything's going to be okay, is getting impatient.
I hear you.
But also, still, no one is believing her that something was actually there.
Exactly.
Because they're all still chalking it up to the fact that she's so stressed. Right.
Quote. Stress. Exactly. So, but Adora's like, okay, I'll go try to sleep.
And as soon as everyone has left the room, another little cameo from the Shadow Spy. Hey, bitches.
Hey, bitches. Hiss. Hiss.
So then Adora goes to her guest room.
And of course, can Adora sleep? No, never.
Certainly not now. When she's been instructed to.
And yeah.
And also, she's lying on her bed in her full outfit with jacket and shoes on. Who's going to fall asleep like that?
Somebody that is really super deeply traumatized and feels like they have to get up and leave at a moment's notice.
Fair.
Yeah.
Okay, but there's a knock on the door. Who could it be?
If I was watching the show, which I did, I would have guessed that it would have been a shadow spy in the guise of Glimmer.
10 points for Meth. Gold stars.
But poor sweet baby Adora doesn't know that.
No.
And once again, this shadow Glimmer is playing on Adora's insecurities, right? So we had the Horde.
Yeah, she's terrible.
The Horde family insecurities, and now it's,
she's telling Adora that every bad thing about herself is true.
Mm-hmm.
Every bad thing about herself that she is imagined is true.
Yep. I thought you were a friend. You ruined everything I've worked for. You're not a friend. Adora's just fucked up. I mean, I don't blame her. That's fucked up for anyone to hear.
Of course. She's already so upset and so racked with guilt.
Yeah.
For what she has brought about. Mm-hmm. Even though, nobody has seen what she has seen and nobody believes her that she's seen it. Yep. She's still racked with guilt.
She's racked with guilt.
And then back in the Lunarium.
And Casta's doing her shit. She's doing some sigil magic there. She's doing the
Are you referring to the monthly moon ceremony?
I'm referring to the monthly moon ceremony where she's doing this very similar. Once again, we're dealing with the mirror again. She's literally in the Lunarium, surrounded by mirrors, mirroring the spell that was in the beginning of the episode that Shadow Weaver did.
Making moon magic.
Castaspella is doing basic maintenance. So she's doing basic maintenance magic.
Yeah, she's rebooting their whole security system. Yes.
But, oops, all shadows.
We know that Bo and Glimmer are both concerned about Adora, but they both think she's sleeping.
Right.
We know something bad's about to happen.
We definitely know something bad's about to happen.
And then the gay rainbow lights start to do their thing.
Yep.
But then, oh no, everything turns black.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, black shadows explode out of Good Gay Magic Bowl.
Good, as opposed to Spooky Scrying Bowl.
Yeah. Got to keep our scrying bowls properly labeled and separated.
Oh, I love that. I love the Good Gay Magic Bowl versus Spooky Scrying Bowl. That's great.
Absolutely. You don't want to mix those two up.
Definitely not. Well, I guess you'll just have Neutral Cauldron if you do that.
Sure.
Neutral Cauldron.
So for brevity's sake, we can just say, boom, spooky magic, boom, Shadow Weaver owns this room, everybody's freaked out, and then they all pass out like in a hot sack.
Meanwhile, Adora is on her way running from Mystacor, where Bo, wink nudge, runs and says, we have to get out of here. Mm-hmm. The protection spell is failing. We need to go.
And he also says, everything that's about to happen is your fault, Adora.
And Adora's like, wait a second.
She also puts her hand through his shadow arm.
Yep. And is like, wait a second. Bo would never say this. Also, you aren't tangible.
Yes. More gasping. There's so much gasping in this episode.
So much gasping.
So now Adora really knows for sure that there is really, truly something wrong, and she's not imagining it. Yep. And she turns and runs back heroically.
Yep. To the Lunarium.
And she sees everyone lying around, either unconscious or dead. She's maybe not sure right away. But then she sees Bo and Glimmer, and they're definitely alive. She sees them, with their chests moving and groaning and making unconscious noises. Mm-hmm. Shadow Weaver, her shadow figure, comes out of the bowl, finally, the bowl o' dark magic, and calls again Adora.
Mm-hmm. And so what I have here is we have the lovely visual motif that runs throughout the show of Shadow Weaver being a toxic narcissistic parent and cradles Adora's face in her hand.
Oh my God. So creepy.
So super creepy, right? But this is also a motif that is used throughout the show of intimacy. It's an intimate act, and it's used in familial intimacy. It's used with romantic intimacy. Like, the idea of touching someone's face and cradling somebody's face in your hands is one that is visually used in the show a lot.
Yes. But I feel like it's especially used with Shadow Weaver in reference to Catra and Adora.
Yes.
In the way she does it without consent and with her gaslighting and her manipulation.
Yep, with different intentions with the both of them too. Like, she'll grasp Catra's face with the door. It's the soft caress of evil.
Yes. Oh, that is perfectly put.
Thank you.
Yes.
I am good with words.
You are. You're a wordsmith. And then Shadow Weaver is so confident in all of her evil plans that she proceeds to tell Adora everything she's about to do. Because that always works out.
Spooky exposition.
Spooky exposition. When the eclipse is over, the shield will be down, and the Horde will conquer Mystacor and bring you home to me.
Yo, obsessed.
So personal.
Obsessed.
Get a life, Shadow Weaver. Adora does not consent.
Heck no.
Yeah, so that's one of the core threads of this episode is Adora coming to understand that Shadow Weaver is her mother figure. Check. that her mother figure has been horribly abusive and manipulative to her entire life.
Check.
And that she doesn't, I don't have to do what you say anymore.
Yep.
Check. That is, the flow of this episode.
And then when we have the big reveal, I will stop you. Why? To help these people? They don't understand you. They did not understand me when I walked among them as Light Spinner. A truth none of us saw.
No. I am shocked.
I am shocked. Why would somebody named Light Spinner change their name to Shadow Weaver?
Indeed. And also, when she says, just as they didn't understand me, they feared my dark power. I mean, when you say it like that, it almost seems reasonable.
Yeah. Well, well, I guess someone would fear your dark power. Yes.
Yeah. And of course, it makes perfect sense that Adora is the same. Like, why would Adora feel like she doesn't wield any dark power?
Yeah.
But Shadow Weaver's like, oh, they'll never understand you, just like they didn't understand me. It's a bullshit parallel, but all of the gaslighting, and all of the mind games that she's already played to try to convince Adora that she's powerless without Shadow Weaver, that she has no sense of self without Shadow Weaver, has just been meant to misdirect her.
Yep, and this is classic narcissistic parent stuff. Over-identifying with the actions that your child is doing, making sure that the actions that your child has are not only reflective of you, but they are, like, essentially they are an extension of you. So we have that here. They don't understand you, just like they didn't understand me. And then once Adora turns it into She-Ra, it's the Shadow Weaver. Deep down what I say is true. You are the ambitious, cutthroat, ruthless warrior I raised you to be. And that, once again, is the narcissistic parent type, literally using Adora as an extension of herself.
And at that point, Adora is verbally saying no. She's saying no over and over, but she's not transforming into She-Ra. She drops the sword and falls to her knees. She has her arms wrapped around herself. This is more than a position of defeat. This is like a position of submission. Defeat gives the idea of a military context that you're like, okay, I give up, you win. This is, much more like submission to an abuser, submission to a gruesome fate.
Yeah. I mean, this is...
because it's self-defensive on a deeper level.
Yeah, exactly. And... Shadow Weaver feeds more bullshit.
The princesses don't care about you. They just want to use you for your strength.
Right. Return to the Fright Zone. Rule by my side. And Adora...
So I can use your strength.
Yeah.
That's just the subtext.
Yeah, exactly. And Adora...
She refuses.
Adora breaks out. This is a huge thing.
Yeah, she does it as herself, not as She-Ra.
These are my friends. They've been kind to me. Something that you never were. And Shadow Weaver's like narcissistic parent crap, blurp, blurp. And Adora recognizes it and vocalizes it, verbalizes it.
She says to Shadow Weaver, you never loved me. You just played your twisted mind games. I'm none of the things you say I am. Break on through to the other side, girl.
Break on through.
Adora stands from her formerly prone position, from that incredibly self-protective position she was just in on the floor. And the music changes with her, changes from the despaired refrain to the hero's refrain. And so, it's kind of a Captain Marvel-y moment for me. Yeah. In the scene near the end where she is being forced to deal with the Supreme Intelligence, and they force her to watch every image of every time she's ever fallen down and been berated in her life. But then she breaks out and forces them to watch. The next moment in all of those sequences was where she stood back up again. And she was like, no, I do not consent. I'm not like you. You're bitter and cruel, and you're the one who used me. You hurt my friends, so now you're gonna pay.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's big damn hero time. But then more exposition. It's already too late. The eclipse will be over in moments. Mystacor will fall, and it will all be your fault.
But it's not.
No, it's never too late.
And this is when we defeat the bad guy with love and light.
And she still hasn't transformed.
Yep. Adora is casting out the shadows. Adora is realizing that you can't run from your shadows. You have to put a light on your shadows and face your shadows.
She fights old school.
So she fights her shadows with light.
And this is the first time the Sword of Protection transforms into something else.
That's true. It transforms into a shield.
It turns into a shield, so she realizes that her Sword of Protection can also protect her.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what a rich text this episode is.
Oh, I know. And Shadow Weaver gets blasted with some good old-fashioned gay rainbow light beams.
Which, is definitely a weapon that She-Ra has in her command.
Oh, yeah, but it's so great
gay
to
rainbow
see
light beams.
A bad guy getting felled by forces of good rather than just like, you're evil, so I'm gonna stab you.
Right.
And I will defeat you with more blood and gore the way you're trying to defeat me with blood and gore. It's like, nah.
I'm gonna defeat you with gay.
Yes.
I'm gonna shoot gay at you.
I'm gonna defeat you with joy and love and friendship.
And friendship and so much gay.
So much gay. That should be our next Gayest Moment nomination, when Shadow Weaver falls to the magical gay lights.
Yeah, I'm into that. That. So yeah, Shadow Weaver pulls more narcissistic parent bullshit. Adora's like, fuck this.
Yep.
And then we have Adora's Sarah from the Labyrinth moment. I'm not going back. You have no power over me anymore.
And verbalizing that is really important because these are realizations that she's just come to.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people can relate to this and identify with this, even when it comes to coming out. Mm-hmm. For anyone who didn't intrinsically understand that they were queer from bebe age, in terms of language. I understood that I was queer from a very young age, but I didn't have language for it, and I couldn't have described it and talked about it. Up until I was, 13, and something happened. There was, a long series of events, like a year-long crush, and eventually the words pop into your head like, holy shit, I'm fucking gay.
I am gay, yeah.
And she has just had this moment, a similar type of moment where her conscious brain has had a breakthrough because the vast majority of our brains are subconscious.
Yep.
It's just true. And she's had a conscious breakthrough and verbalized something that she could not have moved on with her processing of her trauma in order to move past it. She could not have moved on with her processing without consciously realizing this and verbalizing it.
Oh, yay, power of language.
Hooray!
Yay! And then Adora is free of this particular metaphor.
She saves everybody. She saves Lunarium. She saves Mystacor.
Yay! She saves the gay moon place.
Yes, she did. And all the gay sorcerers. And all the cloud beaches and steam grottos.
Casta takes her under her wing and says, Glimmer chooses her friends well. I'll knit you a sweater.
What size are you in the shoulder?
I love it. And I'm like, Adora's broad in the shoulder, yo.
She is.
And then I thought about Adora's broad shoulders.
And then you forgot what you were doing.
And then I forgot what I was doing.
So after Adora saves everybody and Aunt Casta approves and there's hugs and there's sorcerers.
We go to, Adora is relaxing.
On the cloud beach.
Just being all snugs with glims.
We hear some relaxing tide sounds.
Yeah, Adora's finally able to find some semblance of relaxation at this point.
Well, and I really love the fact that she woke up slightly disoriented and she called out for Glimmer and Glimmer was right there.
Yep.
Waiting to reassure her.
Yep. Aww.
And so it wasn't just that she finally achieved relaxation. She finally got the relaxation she deserved and the attention that she needed to move past whatever anxiety she was still having as she moved into a brand new state for her, which was relaxation.
Yeah. She was safe enough to relax.
Yes.
And then we go to the Fright Zone.
Yes. Back to the Black Garnet Chamber. Back to our girl, Catra.
And Catra walks in. Probably heard a hecka commotion.
Mm-hmm.
Walks in, sees Shadow Weaver is fucking toast on the floor. Catra's like, you dumb son of a bitch.
Yep.
You are going about this the wrong way, old woman. If you want to take down Adora, you have to go for the heart. And then Catra gazes at an image of Bo.
With his big heart on his chest.
With a big heart on his chest, and I have this as one of my gayest moments.
How so?
Because Catra is close enough to Adora to know that is how you take Adora down, by going after her heart.
I kind of think that one's a stretch.
The idea that Catra knows that is going after the heart, does that mean that it is going after Adora's friends, or breaking Adora's heart by having Catra be the one that goes after them?
Okay, I'll allow that.
I think it's a little bit of both.
That's fair.
Especially because the next episode we go into is gay.
Oh my goodness. We found an excuse for some suits and some ball gowns.
And some ball gowns.
Oh my goodness. And some awesome old school 80s prom sequences.
But before we get there, we gotta take a nap on the beach in Mystacor and chill out.
Oh, yes, we so do. Sign me up. I shouldn't have said so many shitty things about the Cloud Beach. I'll take it over no beach.
Yeah,
for sure.
Right? I'll take the Cloud Beach over no beach. You know, I'll lay in the Steam Grotto and listen to Enya. It's cool. You know.
Can we bring the special kale into the Steam Grotto? The party kale?
Yeah, just bring some party kale into the Steam Grotto.
All right, I'm there. Book my ticket. Book my ticket to Mystacor.
Sick. So, Jenny!
Meth!
What did we learn today?
We learned that you cannot leave your trauma behind you because it follows you wherever you go like a shadow. You have to face it and process it, which might be a very long journey before you can actually leave it behind.
Oh, I like that.
Yes. And we learned that Princess Prom is the next fucking episode.
Princess Prom is the next fucking episode! Ah, Princess Prom!
Ow, ow, ow!
Well, folks, if you like what you heard and you want to join us in more gay screaming about magic, you can like and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast fix. You can also email us at heyadoracast@gmail.com or hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at heyadoracast. I have been making Spotify playlists for each episode. This week's episode playlist, Shadows of Mystacor, is all about magic. It is available on Spotify right now. You can find the link in the show notes or by visiting our site at heyadora.gay. That's right, .gay. And remember, queer joy is radical.
And queer love saves the universe.